I'm Scott Stein, and 6 months later, I'm using an iPhone 10. Now I remember back last year, in September, when Apple talked about the iPhone 10, and they said this was going to be a whole new paradigm for phones and for the iPhone. This was going to be a design going forward into the future for the next 10 years. Well, I'm using it now, and it doesn't really feel all that futuristic, and maybe that's my favorite thing about the iPhone 10, the fact that it feels normal. In fact, getting rid of the home button doesn't really feel like a loss at all. The swipe ups and the general controls on the bottom of the iPhone 10 are so intuitive that I feel like I actually prefer them using the home button. And I think it's a direction that they could use in things like the Apple Watch and the iPad, and just generally, it's a great multi-touch swipe interface that they've got going. Other things I like about the iPhone 10 6 months later are its size. I liked it from the beginning, and I like it now. I think it's a perfect size, really easy to hold. I don't want a larger phone. And the other thing I like about the iPhone 10 is that, of course, it's almost all screen. Almost all except for the notch, which I've gotten more used to because, heck, a lot of phones now have notches. So Apple now seems like they've set a trend. I'm still not wild, however, about the fact that the notch cuts out so much of the information at the top that I can't see all of the bits of info to check whether my Bluetooth headphones are connected or to look at other bits that I would have normally looked at. And I'm not wild about the way you have to then letterbox the screen to look at movies. Another thing I'm not wild about on the iPhone 10 is Face ID. Now, Face ID, I guess you had to get there because you had to get rid of the home button. And as the future goes in all of the iPads and computers and everything else in our lives, the ability to log in with your face is pretty cool, and it's great that it works. But on something like a phone, there are a lot of times I want to log in quickly, and it's not so easy to do. Maybe I'm waking up and I've got my head in the pillow and I've only got one eye above the pillow, or I don't have my glasses on, and it needs to be in a certain range, not too close. And that's frustrating because then I have to enter a passcode. Same thing if I'm walking down the street and I want to quickly lift it up. I feel like I have to aim my head more. And if I want to lift it just gently on the desk, or if I'm taking notes and the phone locked and I want to just quickly unlock it, I'm usually having to enter the passcode. And it's a little too slow for me compared to Touch ID. I feel like Face ID 2 really needs to happen to improve all those things. I think the TrueDepth camera is really exciting. The idea that it's almost like a mini Microsoft Kinect in there and could do 3D scans, I still feel like that's really untapped. As far as AR and augmented reality apps go on the iPhone, I feel like that's an exciting and still unexplored area of the camera. I'd even like to maybe see, if it didn't affect battery life, having something like that on the rear of the camera. But for what? I don't know. In the iPhone X's battery life, it's okay. I still feel like about 3 p.m. I've got to panic and recharge to make sure that at the end of the day I'm not running out. And that's something I've had for years with the iPhone. And a lot of phones, sure, you have to manage battery life. The iPhone 10, I find, has a little bit less battery life on a daily basis than the iPhone 8 Plus. I want to get to the point, like with the Apple Watch or the iPad, where I can do a whole day and not feel like I have to sip the battery carefully. Another thing I'm not wild about is how much I have to coddle the phone. I love the design of it. I think it's great to hold. I think it's fantastic in the way it feels. But if you drop an iPhone 10, you could shatter the screen. And our drop tests have basically shown that this can happen pretty easily. Now, I always keep this thing in a case. I would never hold it outside of a case like I am now. And I would like that Apple finally attend to make the phones a little more durable to prevent that from happening. In mid-2018, I think the iPhone 10 really has the best overall design of any phone that's out there. And I think it's really great to use, it's fast, the cameras are really good, and across the board, it's proven that it's the form I would pick over another form. But at that price, $1,000, I still feel like it's too expensive. Now, Apple may come out with other iPhone 10-like phones this year and begin lowering the price to make it more reasonable. I think that really needs to happen because at this point, if I were recommending a phone to a family member, I'd say, well, you probably don't need the iPhone 10. You should probably get another iPhone or another phone that has a price that matches, that still performs really well.